Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am so glad you all are here and really excited for today's event and for this demo. Um, a lot of us, in this age of AI are already reaching for AI tools when we code, whether it's Copilot or Cursor or Claude Code, and they're genuinely speeding things up. But there's a specific challenge in crypto that other domains often don't have. The contracts you're working on are permanent, the transactions are reversible, the attack surface is fairly large. So the question isn't just, can AI help me build faster? It's, can I trust what it's helping me to build? And that is exactly what we're going to talk about today. So thrilled to have Andrew Hong here, who's the founder of Herd. And I'll let you talk, Andrew, a little bit about what Herd is. But the majority of today will walk through how to use Claude Code alongside Herd's MCP to research contracts, write data pipelines, build integrations, and do it all safely. So, Andrew, welcome. Thank you so much for making time. And I'd love to turn it over to you to quickly intro yourself and what you all are doing at Herd.
Sounds good. Thank you, Teresa, for having me on. I'm excited to nerd out over AI and crypto for an hour. So yeah, my name's Andrew. Been in crypto full time. God, feel 6 years, 7 years now, for better or worse. And yeah, spent a majority of my time at Dune, where I was head of DevRel there and researched probably over 200 protocols across Bitcoin, Solana, and Ethereum. And so I'm very happy to for all the improvements that Claude is giving us, because I never really enjoyed clicking through docs, opening 20 tabs of Etherscan, having like 15 transactions and like my notepad while trying to write like code.
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of crypto people um, relish the difficulty. It's kind of like a glaze of like, yeah, it's and we're proud that we can do this very difficult thing. Um, that like only a couple thousand of people have time to like no life their full weekdays and weekends into. But I think as we've gone more to mainstream and institutional, it's like, oh yeah, most normal people do not want to open Etherscan to even like see a transaction, let alone like understand how a protocol works, right? And I think that we as an industry like have a somewhat good understanding of tokens, but when it comes to actually like how smart contracts work, how to search across them, how to understand them, how to interact with them, like how to study them, I think that's still like not very accessible at all.
Yeah.
And like has not gotten that much more accessible with AI, purely because most AI, like your ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude, like they're built around web search, right?
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
you can search up the Uniswap docs or something, but you're not going to be able to easily search up like a specific pairs pool and like what hooks are attached to it. And if there is an article on it, it's probably outdated. And there might have been upgrades or things that have changed, right? So like blockchain just does not lend itself well to web search.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where Herd started, where we're like, okay, there's all these great protocols on Ethereum. They're very hard for people and devs to learn how to build on top of. We should have like a next evolution of Etherscan that makes it easier to just explore and understand these contracts in like a human readable way, and like tied to specific jobs to be done, whether that's as an analyst, a dev, a vault curator, etc. So started the company a year ago with my co-founder Ed, who also was at Dune. And yeah, we're a team of 6 people now. And our most recent release is our MCP, which this is actually the first content I'm doing publicly about our MCP. And we
Through
actually
alpha
yeah,
for
it's
Herd
alpha.
MCP.
This is we've had a bunch of teams testing it out privately for the last month, because everyone like, it's funny. I tried to pitch this or sell this to, not even sell this, like get teams to use this last like April or like March. But like people were barely learning to use Cursor then, and like installing an MCP was like a lot of work. So it's been nice to see like everyone come back from December with like playing with Claude Code, whether they're technical or non-technical. People are like, oh, I'm using Claude Code now.
Yeah.
And we need an
Yeah.
easier way. It's like, oh, I can give it an Alchemy or QuickNote RPC, and it can do all these cool and like an Etherscan API, and it can do all these cool things. And like seeing them get excited about it and then ask me like, hey, can you guys put all the stuff you haven't heard into an MCP? I'm like, well, funny enough, that's already been built. It's like
They
I
like
just never really pushed it because the customer demand for it wasn't there. But yeah,
you've
that
been
there's
waiting for people to catch up to your own brilliant ideas, and
I don't
finally, maybe.
I can't take credit for being I'm proud that Claude Code and Claude made it much easier for people to approach this stuff. But yeah, so yeah, we've everything that you can see in our Explorer is all accessible in MCP.
Mhm.
And our focus there is really in this loop of like research, due diligence, and then validation.
Mhm.
Because like let's say you're trying to integrate with like a Morpho Vault. Like
Mhm.
Claude can write you the code for it. Right. I'm like almost
Yeah.
positive it can figure out between Foundry and VM and WAGMI how to write a script to send a transaction to like the Morpho Vault. Right. But how do
Yeah.
you know that it's the right vault? How do you know who has control over the vaults and like what assets it's being held, like how that control has changed over time? Like more about just like the history of the contract if it's upgradable, and then getting the code, getting the balances, all of this stuff on the research and due diligence side. And then after you've done these transactions, how do you QA like, oh, what happened that transaction is what I expected to? Because in crypto, you have a very nice benefit of everything being public. So when you want to QA and validate your code or your analysis, you can just pull up like Etherscan or Herd and find transactions that do what you want to do, like have done what you want to do, and check like, is what I think is what I want to happen happening in their transaction, and is it happening in my transaction, right? So it's like
Yeah.
Claude can do all the vibing in the middle of like how things get executed, but like the start and end of the journey that really wraps this thing in like a safety harness is like the research and due diligence, and then the QA and validation. And again, doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you're executing, doesn't matter if you're writing data analysis. It's always this like research like job and then validation cycle. So
Yeah.
I emphasize our MCP is very much focused on that. It's not like oh, this is going to do Dune analytics queries or whatnot for
Yeah.
you. Right? Like you should plug into the Dune or Allium like skills or MCP to help you do that. And our skills and MCP is just a wrapper kind of around that to be like, hey, let us provide you with more context and guardrails around what you're trying to do.
Yes,
So
which is super important as more people try to play around with using things like Claude Code
right,
in, Web3 and in DeFi, because the consequences are large, and you want,
yep,
Claude not to just be super helpful and do stuff that it turns out like
it's not.
are
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
ill-informed.
Yeah, you don't want it to tell you that you're right because then it's like, I don't know if I want to be absolutely right. I don't know if I trust this because a
Yeah,
lot
like
of
I'd
what we
I'd rather that like I had confidence than I was right.
yeah, like a lot of like the teams that we gave the MCP to and work with, they were like, oh, Claude is great at giving me something in 10 minutes, but like it's almost always like there's something wrong, and like
Yeah.
I have to spend an hour or 2 hours then figuring out what was wrong. Uh, so we just exist to make that easier. And
Amazing.
yeah, I'm happy to step into how to set up the MCP and then
Yeah, yeah.
actually running through a few
Shall I
examples.
shall I pop up your screen, and then I'll
Yeah,
jump off while you're demoing, and I'll come back on when the demo's done.
sounds good. Let me know when my screen is visible.
You should be all set. I see
Cool.
explore protocols for.
Amazing. Yeah,
Yep.
this is our herd explorer. So if I go to any function page or transaction page, this will actually pop up we have an AI chat on every page that's somewhat similar to Cursor, where you can actually mention like functions, events, contracts, transactions, wallets. Everything again that's in our explorer in this agent is accessible via MCP. So you can just copy this command, and you can also go to our docs if you want to learn more about this for setup because if you're not using Claude, if you're using Codex or Cursor or something else, there's a bunch of settings here as well. But you can just go into Claude, and if I actually exit, like it's just Claude and then paste, which is like add transport, herd MCP, etc. So I can just, if I already added it, so I'm not going to add it again, but then I can add it. I can start up Claude, and then I can go /MCP, and you'll have to go and authenticate. So this uses an OAuth. So you can click authenticate, and it's going to take you back to herd, where we just use privy. So you can just sign in with, like, you put in your email and that'll sign you up or sign you in. And then you'll be able to click like verify authentication. It'll take you back here. So you'll need that to have access. If all you do is add the MCP and you don't authenticate, you won't be able to access anything. So I'm just quickly talk about the tools we have in here. Again, they're focused around contracts, transactions, and wallets. So everything from, like, for contract metadata, like what is, if you give it a proxy contract, we pull the implementation, but also the implementation history. So if it's been upgraded, we tell you about all the upgrades, the times, the deployments. The ABIs are already enhanced with like code snippets and also like the signatures of caching, right? So you don't have to have the agent figure out how to go and get that. And like contract function events, like we already summarize those as well. We include token details, right? Because a lot of what we do at Herd is like there's 10 or 20 great SDKs and APIs out there. We've already pre-aggregated that, done our own data transformation on top so that you can get a lot of, information about a contract that would normally take maybe 20 or 30 or even 40 tool calls. And I will, we have code search as well. Before I go into these other tools, let's just look at contract metadata, right? So I can say, hey, tell me about the USDC contract on base. So this should go into a web search, or maybe it already knows the right address. Well, yeah, okay. Good thing is the Claude already knows addresses. So I can just give it permission. It's going to look up contract metadata. And this is a giant response. You'll see error. It's not really an error. It's just this is so large that it has to save it into a text file that it can then go bash or query. And it's able to now look at like the contract name or the function names, or like, yeah, the historical versions. And you can see if I control O to see the full details, you can see we actually give like a fully parsed summary that like we've parsed out from the contract, from different functions. You can see it's 55 functions, 17 events. There's only one historical version that was deployed around the same time as the contract. And yeah, you can see here, it's like, this is Circle's official deployment. This is when it was deployed. Here's a bit about the token details, its functionality. Obviously, this one's pretty simple. I can give it a more complex one where I say, hey, find me the base names, like register contract, and explain that one to me. So this one should do a web search. And here we will now experience the pains of web search, where who knows what address is actually going to find, because base names actually has a bunch of contracts within it, and I will actually show an example. Let's see here. We have a visualizer feature in Herd that for any contract basically finds all of the other contract relationships. So I'm kind of cheating here because I'm gonna let this run. Well, what did it find? The 0x4cc. All right, we'll see if we can find that. So this is base names where there are 17 contracts, it looks like, involved here with how you actually register a base name. And so whenever you do a search in here, essentially what we're trying to teach the LLM to do is like, hey, you actually want to build up this mental model to find the right contracts. And like the way that you find these contracts is by looking at variables, is by looking at deployments, is by looking at transactions for like the actual relationships. And it found, let's see, what contract did it find? 0x4cc, base name registrar controller. And I can say, all right, Yeah, show me recent registrations. There we go. um, I don't even have to. I don't have to type in more in this day and age. Um, and so this is one of the first nice tools we have, which is latest transactions. Typically, whenever you're looking into a contract, you want to be able to understand how someone is using a function, right? This is good for both due diligence and also for like validation. And typically, you'd have to go and do a bunch of like doing queries or other queries to figure this stuff out. We've already done a bunch of great lookup functions across like searching up transactions on functions and wallets. And wallet here could be a 4337 wallet, a multi-sig, not just an EOA, to kind of get like their deployments, their activity, the transactions, balances, etc. And so here, if I expand, Claude's going to freeze for a second, but you can see we've found a bunch of transactions where I guess it looks like discounted register was called. And it's going to say, I got success false, which means they failed. And the successful ones were from back in September, right? So the contract I found, it's actually seeing a lot of registrations failed. So I can see, okay, can you look at the contracts called in these transactions and see if we can find the right contract to call to register a base name. Again, now this is the part of the analyst dev journey where you're now hopping through documentation, you're hopping through Etherscan, you're praying you could find the right contract by going between these transactions, contracts, and docs. And this is probably where most people drop off and they're like, you know what, I like having a life. I don't want to go and spend it opening a bunch of tabs, so here, once it's found transactions to look up, it's going to look into each of these, or it's going to choose one. I actually don't know which one it chose. And we now return like the deepest transaction data, I would say, of any provider, where we have historical implementations in the transactions, all the balances and transfers, line numbers, decoding, etc. So that it is able to go and query all of this. So it's writing a bunch of queries. There'll be some errors as sometimes it queries too much. But this is something LLMs are very good at, which is giving it a large JSON or text file and having it learn to navigate that itself, right? That's kind of one of the main benefits of Claude or Cursor, where it's just very good at these like bash or grep kind of queries. And now it's looking up different contracts. And so it's going to basically try and create this mentally. And I think it'll, I have done this before, so I am kind of cheating. But it's going to basically build up that mental model of like, oh, okay, what are the actual contracts being called? Yeah, and it's pretty thorough. Like again, for AI, it's like if you give them enough branches to go and explore, it will actually go and explore those branches, and it will make the answers much better. Right? So like it went to query a successful transaction, now it's going to go and query the failed transaction as well, just to see like what went wrong in the failed transaction. So yeah, probably finds there's a registry contract, there's a base registrar. It's doing a bunch of thinking. All right. So there's a registrar controller contract. It calls base registrar, only controller. So yeah, so it's saying it's not authorized after September 2025. So I can say, can you check recent calls on the base registrar to see if there are new authorized controllers. All right, so now it's jumping down a level into here to be like, okay, who is actually calling this so that it works? Because clearly that old contract that it found off the internet does not work anymore. And like the docs somewhere in base's docs or GitHub like is not updated, because all it takes is like one source to be out of date with a wrong contract address and like you've thrown off your whole like you've lost a day basically, but here now it's saying, all right, I'm going to understand the the base registrar contract. I'm going to look up what functions I'm interested in. And in this case, it's actually looking at add controller as a function. This is actually, it does different paths. Sometimes it looks at the register function to see what contracts are calling register. It looks like it's actually gotten a little smarter. And it's querying to see all calls of add controller specifically. It's still thinking here. Oh, okay. Random people were trying to add the controller, but it also wasn't working. So now it's going to look at like, okay, let me actually just look at successful registrations. So yeah, it'll go and try to do a bunch of searches. I think it found a successful registration. It's looking up these transactions again. I know this is the part that's normally not as fun to live stream, because this is when you go and like grab a coffee or like open up another Claude session to work on something else. But unfortunately for the live stream, we just have to sit here.
Well, if you want to, while we waited, we actually just dropped a tweet into the public channel chat. I'm not sure if you heard anything about Moonwell, but maybe we can splice in some social commentary around.
Yeah. We can try that out as well. So, anyways, yeah, it's just.
Have you heard anything about that?
Yes, I saw all the fun tweets about it. I have not looked into it myself. But anyways, just to close the loop on this old register contract was removed on September 23rd. The new one, it found it was authorized on September 8th. It looks like there was also a safe that was added. So it's not just this controller, but a safe can directly register. And it's like, hey, you should use this one. So how is Claude doing? Claude's doing fine. So yeah, that is one example of us just using our MCP to do that research. For Moonwall, this will be a fun one. I haven't tested it yet. Find the contract for the most recent Moonwall exploit with the bad Oracle. Oops, space. The bad Oracle price. Oh, I didn't start Claude.
Let's see.
Was that on, what chain was that on? I actually don't know.
What does it say?
I'm sure Claude will find it.
Yeah, where? Let's see. Let's test Claude on this.
Yeah. Did one search.
But yeah, you couldn't have had a more timely exploit for going live. Although I guess it was probably only a matter of time.
Yeah. Funny thing is, I think Moonwell's had quite a few hacks, so I don't even know if it'll find the right hack. It might find the wrong one.
But you know, that's its own maybe anti-endorsement of Moonwell.
It's finding it. Yeah, I will not comment on Moonwell or the team. I'm sure they're trying their best. But yeah, this search looks right. All right, it's found the forum post. I do feel like Claude could do web searches faster. Like, I feel like all this whole sub-agent thing, well, I guess that's up to me to kick off the sub-agents to the web search, but
yeah. Is that so you're like making those like trade-off thing as you're using, Claude Code and the Herd NCP, there's some nuance that you're finding in terms of like how to optimize like the fastest possible
Yeah.
research
There's
components.
like optimizing it from like the herd perspective, which is like give it the information it needs and then like step out of the way. And then
Mhm.
obviously from the user perspective, like I'm sure people see all of these amazing tweets about oh, it's trying to use space again. No, you should use herd. Let's see if it learns. Um, you'll see all these tweets about like crazy Claude setups. I'm gonna be honest. I'm like a left curve. I just use cursor.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, I found the contract details. Use herd to analyze um, these contracts more. See if you can find the exploit. Yeah, so we have searching contract code. We also have like contract version diffs. So it should find the right contract, go and get the old versions, and look for where this exploit is actually happening in the code. Um, oh, okay. This was complex enough for it to start doing a plan.
Where you at? Analyze. Yep. And so as it's building out this plan, it's okay. I see it starting to like check things off in the
Yeah.
visual.
Yeah. So again, this is I'm using Claude in a very dumb way.
Mhm.
It's like you can do you can do much fancier things with it. I accidentally aborted. Um,
But you're
I
not
just,
in a dumb way, in a simple way.
oh yeah, I'm just using it in a simple way. Yes.
Yeah, which is
I'm not.
probably more approachable for somebody who is trying to just get started as they're
Yes.
using Claude
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Herd.
My team. I'm the CEO, not the CTO. My team does all the fancy schmancy setups, and they share it with me, and I'm like, I just use the background agents and cursor, and it gets the job done for me. Like, because for me, I'm like, you can do so much to make the agents faster, spin up so many agents, but I'm like, you can only think so fast, you know.
Yeah,
For me, I'm like, I spend much more of my time thinking than
yeah.
like tweaking how many agents I can run. Um,
Which is actually a good question for us to talk through at some point, like how you think about like when you still need the human in the loop for a lot of this stuff. Because obviously you still need a person who is thinking to some degree, even with everything that Herd's MCP is adding on top.
correct. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, again, this is what we've built the MCP around as well, where it's like the human is still better at planning and validating. Um,
Mhm.
like even if you give an LLM tests to validate against, like someone has to explain those tests. And if you don't explain those tests or validations well, the LLM will find a way to be valid by going through some loophole, and it'll tell you like, oh yeah, these tests are passing. Like, oh yeah, this data is valid, but it's not actually working.
Yeah.
Uh, so anyways, what did it find? The faulty contracts. It found the main oracle, the faulty OAuth wrapper, the price feed. There was an affected market. It found the transaction. I don't know if I found that on the web or from Herd. Um, and then it found the code snippet. But also, again, I'm not sure if this is also one of the pain points of Claude, where it's like, what did it find here from the web versus from Herd? I
Hmm.
wish Claude could do sourcing better or like citations better, but it found that it blamed it on itself. I'm curious, what uh, information from above did you find from Herd tools versus the web?
Yeah, and obviously because it's Claude, you're able to just like in, like real language, ask this sort of question when you want that sort of
Yes,
sourcing
yes,
information.
yeah.
Like abstract one level further with it.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, you're constantly just wrapping the chat with your own thinking. Well,
Yeah.
it's very fun. But yeah, I'm also still on the fence of like Terminal versus UI because I'm like, I like being able to do things in like Perplexity or ChatGPT where like these
Mhm.
citations are like inline and highlighted, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, what I made up. Okay, so it did find the code from Herd. It did
Okay.
find the transaction from Herd and the OE wrapper. It found these. Okay, all right. So it looks like it didn't make up that much. But yeah, this is always a loop I put it through when it gives me information or research, even in like coding. I'm like, okay, tell me what you sourced, and tell me
Yeah,
what is like what things you kind of guessed on.
yeah.
Uh,
I do love when it's, like, apologetic about, like, "Oh, yeah, you're right, you caught me, I made that up."
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes you have to poke it a little more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, these are all things where like again, can you write your own skills and stuff to do this? To a degree, right? Like I know, for example,
Mhm.
like, you know, the Tempo team, very, very smart group of people, probably have written over 100 different skills. You know,
Mhm.
it's a battle between like, do you want the LLM to do everything from first principles, which like is more flexible but like costs more in terms of times and tokens,
Mhm.
or do you give it like more abstracted tools like Herd that like, you know, is it a little less flexible than like the LLM just being able to write scripts? Sure. But like a lot of the things that it needs to do with these lookups and like contract analysis, it can do much, much faster. And
Yeah,
the good thing with AI is like it's not an either or. Like you don't have to choose like, do I do these skills or do I do this herd MCP? Like you just add both and like let the LLM figure it out.
yeah,
So like, you know, there's no I want to say there's no downside to trying out herd with
yeah.
MCP. Obviously that's not my sell. But you know, the
What
sell
a
is
strong, strong sell.
yeah,
There's
right?
no
Yeah, it's like it's
downside.
not gonna hurt you. But yeah, I would say like if you want to have like in-depth, like validated data about contracts, transactions, wallets, like Herds MCP is definitely a tool you want to add. Because again, I've been doing this for 6 years. I
Mhm.
kind of know what you can do with an RPC and code and what you can't.
Yeah,
And so a lot of this is optimized around like what are the things that I know is very hard to do without like a database and like an RPC, um, and
yeah.
like all of like the basic level stuff.
So
Um,
not only is it like optimized to help kind of put guardrails around vibe coding, but also it's optimized to sort of take what you like your hard learned wisdom and like
exactly,
put it into like a coded framework that helps other people who haven't been doing this for 6+ years like use
exactly.
your experience.
Yeah, because like the way to think about crypto is like it's a constant connection of contracts, wallets, and these contracts and wallets are connected by transactions, all these
Mhm.
lines. All right. And so what we've built around is like, how do you think about finding all of these connections quickly, essentially? So there's
Yeah.
only 12 tools. We've gone between 5 tools and 40 tools within our history of Herd. We've built with like all the different frameworks, whether that's like LangChain, LangGraph, AI SDK, Mastra, all the fun little like BAML or stuff in between. And we've kind of narrowed it down to these like 9 tools. So it doesn't like bloat. We're not adding like 50 tools, which is going to bloat your Claude
Mhm.
and make it less efficient. Like we've chosen 9 tools specifically for doing this again, research, due diligence, validation loop, which if you don't have that in crypto, you end up with things like the I don't want to say this would have
Like
prevented the Oracle price thing. I'm not I don't think it's nice to be like, hey, you could have prevented
no.
yourself from harm. But I think this could have like, you know, if you want to
Yeah.
try and prevent stuff like that, it doesn't hurt to have the herd MCP in there to help you do an extra level validation of like when you're finished with your prompt and you want to ask it like, hey, double check everything. It actually has something
Mhm.
to double check with. It's not going to go make up more things that you then have to
Yeah.
now check that the tools it used to double check with were not made up. you know,
Yeah.
the buck has to stop somewhere. And if you don't define that, then the LLM is going to make up new tools and scripts and be like, yes, this script validates it. It's like, okay, but check your script now, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So like you basically created like where the final say around like this is because you all have been able to build this with herd MCP, like you can trust that you've put in like real validated guardrails yourself that
this
like
is this is validated by the blood, sweat, and tears of the her team's work and me QAing everything as
yeah.
much as I can. So, but yeah, it's only for EVM right now, only for Ethereum and Base. We're
Okay.
obviously looking to add more chains, but Base and Ethereum is just where most of the EVM activity is for now. So yeah,
Um,
yeah, please, yeah, anyone can
before
try it
we
out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. So before we open it up, if folks have questions, drop them into um, YouTube chat. Also, if you're on Twitter and can access its confusing UI to find the chat, you can drop questions there. But questions for Andrew, happy to have them. But while we're waiting for any of those to come in, how do folks get started? Like, how do they uh, plug this in, and like where would you recommend people like think about starting with herd MCP?
Yeah, I mean, I think the perfect place is like with, you know, Allium has a new agent like skills thing for like setting up queries. Like anytime you're using like trying to build something in crypto and you just want this extra layer on top, just add it in and it'll help you with any of those workflows. I'll add this MCP button to the home page here as well, so it shows up here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you just have to copy, like sign in, authenticate, and then you're good to go. It's really meant to be like this wide thing where it's like it's not helping you specifically do data analysis or specifically write contract integrations, which we have another MCP coming out for that, but that's save that for a different day. But yeah, it'll help you with whatever you're trying to do in crypto, right? So I think it's kind of like we want it to be like the first thing people add when they're building in crypto, like before they've chosen if they want to use like Allium or Dune or Tenderly or Gold Sky or, you know, whatever else. It's like, okay, let me add this as like a starter kit. So
Yeah. And you said you've been kind of testing almost like in a beta mode with folks for a little while. Like what have they found, you know, like most useful, anything the team has found that surprised you as you were bringing the MCP to life?
yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is it's kind of hard to be surprised when you've gone through this like 1,000 times. So a lot of it's just been nice to be like the nice part has been when like less technical, even technical people tell me like, oh, I just like my brain just opened around like how to see this connection. I'm like, yes, perfect. You can see these connections. Like your thinking is evolving.
Yeah.
That's been something that's very rewarding. I would say probably one of the most enjoyed features is like for our wallet profile, like this gets like everything on like if I go to my wallet, like we have activity, positions, and deployments, which is like all the contracts and transactions called by this wallet, all of the contracts like deployed by this wallet, and like for each position, like CVBTC, what were the last transfers of this token by this wallet, right? And we do this not just for EOAs, but for any address, whether that's a multi-sig, whether that is a contract, like any contract, whether that's a 4327 account. And so like treating any address as a wallet basically now makes it a lot easier to like, if you're trying to understand how a vault curator is working, like the vault curator is going to be a multi-sig. You can't explore it the way you would normally explore an EOA address because most tools out there don't support like contract level as a wallet views. Right? And so that was one of the things that we really wanted to support. And so that's probably one of the most, this and like latest transactions, I think are our most called tools. Just because you want to be able to see like, okay, what is this wallet doing? How does it interact with this contract? Oh, this contract has this function. How is this function being used? Oh, there's a wallet here that's interesting. Let me go to something. So it's like those two are like some of the main connecting strings between these tools.
Yeah.
Um,
Which
so
makes sense because that's sort of like what tells you that like everything that's moving through is healthy still, right? Like you're getting that pressure test on like what
exactly,
is
like
happening.
a mental model. Maybe if I'll probably I'll do a mirror diagram for this later when I tweet out the release. But it's like going wide versus going deep. Like going
Mhm.
wide is being able to make those connections. So like getting latest transactions, getting transaction activity. These help you go wide and find a range of contracts, transactions, and wallets. And then going deep is like contract metadata or wallet overview, or like transaction query, where it's like now we're going to give you this giant text file that has everything you need to know about that contract, that transaction, or wallet, right? And
Mhm.
so it's like you really want to have that wide and deep coverage.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the two axes. I'll draw a pretty picture later, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
like the two axes we were like playing with. So
Yeah, which makes sense. And it's like you're able to use like the different tools to go in both directions, which
yeah.
again just speaks to that broader sense of confidence you can get that you've covered all your bases.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Um,
as people were testing it, if you can say like what's the craziest thing that somebody found or like was able to flag for themselves?
that's a good question. I don't remember off the top of my head because like a lot of these conversations I had with teams were like, tell me what is like the next
Mhm.
protocol you're integrating or the next vault you're looking into,
Yeah.
um, and like I will walk you through an example. And so it's very much like this is not like a cantina or like one of these
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Not a
auditor
security.
AIs
Yeah.
where it's like gonna find something crazy. Like the point of this is like it's
Mhm.
doing the most boring work for you, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And so it's like I
So that's actually a good
not yeah,
differentiator.
it's not great for our marketing, but it's like no one's gonna find anything crazy with
Yeah.
this. It's just this just makes the boring loop that you have to do during your research much faster.
Yeah.
Um, and like
But that's
that's
actually
it.
like that's actually a really good so like for the like 100 or so people who are watching this between YouTube and Twitter and are thinking like wait, so this isn't a security audit. Like this is actually like the research component that makes sure that like you've got all the details right and that you're setting up everything correctly as you're building versus like the thing that is expressly designed to catch exploits.
Right. And
I
like
don't know if you
this,
wanna, like,
they
dig
yeah,
into that a little bit.
yeah, I mean they can work hand in hand. Like you can put the trail of bits skills with the herd MCP and
Mhm,
like the Claude will figure out when to use the security skill versus
mhm,
when it's like, oh, like for example, you might give Claude a vault, like a Morpho Vault V2 to look into, and it'll
yeah,
use like Cantina or Trail of Bits or one of these security audit skills to like analyze that code. And some point in the code, it's going to be like, oh, vaults have adapters. Well, I need to look for a real example of an adapter now because the
mhm,
code is just theory. I need to actually look on chain to see what's happening, like
yeah,
in real life. And so then it should jump to be like, hey, let me find a vault contract. Let me find like the latest transactions where a vault, like an adapter was added. Let me
mhm,
understand that transaction where that vault was added. I mean, that adapter was added, and let me then search the code of that adapter. And so
yeah,
like that's like the tool hopping that it would do pretty well now, actually, like as well, like almost as well as I would do it. Just a little
yeah,
slower. So I still have some jobs. Well, actually, I don't know if I have job security now. If I go back to doing what I did before, but yeah, like it'll then know to jump between like, oh, okay, I've gotten basic code analysis. I should now start using Trail of Bits skills again for like fuzzing and like writing a fuzz test with
mhm,
like Foundry or Slither or something, which is now
mhm,
like we don't have to cover that because the LM can figure that out. So
yeah,
yeah, it's I think it's hard to build a mental model around this stuff. But because right now all users are told is like, hey, jam another skill in there, jam another MCP in there.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and like learning how to combine those skills and MCPs is also a skill. Um, but that's something that the whole world is still learning how to do.
yeah.
So
And I think, like there is a certain amount of trial and error, right? Of like, but
yep,
if I can abstract like a larger point from what you're saying is sort of like all of this still comes with like needing to have, like with the visualizations, needing to understand at a high level, like what you need to do and how these pieces can work together so that you can optimize how you're actually using all of them. And that's where like the herd
exactly.
MCP can come in and play, like well with all these other skills is because it's actually serving a slightly different purpose, and just throwing everything in there and going like, hope you figure it out, Claude,
Yep,
doesn't actually work as well as having your own like mental model of here's what I know I need to do and here's all the tools I have, like here's how I'm expecting them all to work together. And so
exactly.
that's the work of like the human in the system, like like the Iron Man in the suit is actually like understanding all your tools well enough to be able to use them in ideally the right sequence, or at least to be able to ask Claude the right questions to get it to
Yep,
try to sequence out the work.
yep, yeah, yeah. The most common prompt I use in here is find X contract and look up examples, like look up transactions calling the most common functions. So
Mm-hmm.
that it can give me a contract summary and then transaction context about like how that function actually works. And
Yeah,
that's like the most common question that I give the LLM. Like it's always like a find me some object, tell me something about it. Whether it's like find me this wallet, tell me about its transactions. You know,
yeah.
so
And so you've just kind of like really pulled everything back to like basics, and then
yeah, it's all yeah. This is all like none of this is sexy stuff. Like unfortunately for my team, like I
wrong pitch. All of this is incredibly cool and attractive and very exciting.
don't. I don't. If I pull the random like Capital One developer off the street and ask them, "Hey, do you want to go and do you want to read transactions?"
And the
Yeah, I
answer
don't know
is
if it's not good.
no, but I want Herds MCP to help me
Yes,
actually be able to.
exactly. Yes, it's like I'm excited to not have to read it.
Yeah,
So,
and just
but
be
yeah,
able to pull in what you need from there.
yeah,
So we talked about how people can engage with Herds MCP. If
yeah.
they have feedback as they're using it, how should they reach out to you
Great question.
or the team?
So yeah, you can reach out. You should reach out to me on Twitter, Andrew Hong 5297 at gmail.com. On Twitter, that's also my handle on Telegram as well. Where we're all I'm very responsive. So to feedback. So if you have feedback on anything you're trying here, you could just let us know. Uh, and
Amazing. And I will drop
yeah,
that into I'll drop your handle into
perfect.
the chat just for folks.
Yeah,
Um, and they just at a high level, like AI
awesome.
is moving so quickly.
Yeah,
And there's just constant innovation. So like you obviously have spent a lot of time thinking about how AI is going to impact DeFi and the broader Web3 space, but like what if you had to guess, like where do you think things are going next, or like what do you think Herd tries to tackle now as you keep expanding into ways to kind of optimize
yeah,
building in Web3?
yeah. So yeah, right now with this is like we started from both ends of the developer journey, which is the research and the validation.
Mhm.
We didn't cover execution before, but we're now moving into execution as well. Of like, how do we create a new shared set? I guess again, not a new idea. Like, how do you create a set of actions on top of all protocols? I believe that it should not be in a GitHub SDK because
Yeah.
like there's no way you're keeping up. We tried doing that at Dune. It's been tried so many times where it's like, oh yeah, here's an SDK for all DeFi actions, and like you just can't manage that in a GitHub repo.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that comes with execution, such as like tracing the function calls, like tracing the data that's being calculated, like the helper functions, into
Mhm.
function inputs, simulating the transactions to know that they're actually working, storing those transactions. Like, oh, if I've done certain transactions, I want to be able to look them up quickly, and like have context about what I was trying to do. So we're
Yeah.
wrapping that into a new herd product as well, but that is currently entering beta. So maybe we'll have another stream maybe in a month or so,
Yeah.
showing that off. But yeah, yeah.
If folks want to reach out and try to be a part of beta testing for that, I assume they can just ping you on
They
Twitter or
can reach out
Telegram.
to us as well. Yes. But that's still more private testing right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like ultimately the world we're going for it's very similar to like if you talk about to any of these like AI security auditing companies where like one of the bottlenecks for developing contracts is just like the security and audit cost. I think there's a bunch of very cool things that can be done with contracts. And a lot of the reason people don't do it is just because there's a fear of these hacks. Yeah. And it's a very real fear.
And like a valid one, because we see, day over day, like really smart teams with well-meaning products that like the surface area of what you can accidentally expose yourself to is just massive.
It's a lot. It's very hard. I think that is shifts in the next year where deploying a contract becomes like the same mental overhead as like deploying a TypeScript app to Vercel.
Yeah.
Hopefully a year. But I think when that comes, there's so much that you can do with like shared on-chain state. And like we're preparing for the world where there's like millions of contracts. When you need to scalably integrate across millions of contracts, like you're not doing that with one-off integrations and like using a SDK. There needs to be a better abstraction, and we don't think an ABI covers it. Like an ABI is a very unopinionated, like, hey, here's a function and here's the inputs. It tells you nothing about the business case for it. What are safe inputs? How are people using it? And so that's kind of what we're packaging on top. But yeah, I'm very, very excited for that future to come. I think,
I mean, it makes a ton of sense.
But hopefully, like it should come. Like I think we're all very well set up for it. AI helps us a lot in achieving this vision, and there's a bunch of great teams working across the stack on the security side, the Solidity development side, the wallet safety side. We're just focused on like once the wallets are safe and the contracts are safe and people want to build with them, like we're that third step. So definitely a little still ahead of the market. We might be a smaller name for a while still, but I think as soon as that day comes, we'll be the main way of, again, integrating any contracts and any protocols. So
which I mean is an exciting place to be, because I think there's again so much potential and only so many folks who right now have all of the knowledge in their head to be able
that's not scaling. There's no it's that group is getting smaller. A lot of that group is getting hired into AI. And because of AI, I think a lot of the new entrants aren't putting in the same, they don't have to put in the same amount of effort to learn everything that like we did pre-AI a couple of years ago. So the talent pool is shrinking, if anything. So
or just the talent pool maybe still full of promising devs, but like the knowledge base is moving out of human heads. And
whatever we want to call that. It's a good point.
And there are talented devs listening to this who should use Herd MCP to actually build and not need to go through the painful step of learning.
That is correct. That's correct. I'm definitely
there's the pitch.
I'm an old head in my mental model of these things now, but yes. Thank you.
Amazing. So for folks watching, we will do a recap. This will be live or this will be recorded and able to be reviewed on our YouTube. But just incredibly excited. I remember Herd launching Trails in 2025, I think.
Yes. And we learned a lot from that. That's been quietly shuttered. The actions are our rework of that. So
but I think it's just a testament to like how quickly and like innovatively AI is shifting how we actually can build and what can be done in the DeFi space. So it's just really, really cool to see the evolution. And I appreciate you spending time with us today. I know some folks in the chat had some nice things to say. No specific questions, but super interesting, lots of potential. So hopefully folks will reach out to Andrew and the Herd team on Twitter, on Telegram. But always a pleasure to get to spend some time with you, Andrew. And thank you so much for this true kind of like alpha around Herd's MCP as it starts to go live.
Of course. And yeah, thanks again for having me. This is a fun conversation. So
amazing. All right. Well, folks, we're going to leave it there and have a great rest of your day.